Generally thought of as a beginner or even intermediate split, the basic upper-lower split probably has more application than any other training split in bodybuilding. But I have to preface this by saying the upper-lower split that you're thinking about is probably not the one that I'm talking about, as there are many different ways to run this training program. So we're going to cover all the ways that the upper-lower split can be run, how to use it as a beginner all the way up to an advanced lifter for general mass gain or even body part specific training, how you can use it for weak body parts, and we're also going to dive into the pros and cons of this training split, as no single training split should be used universally in all scenarios, as there's a time and place for specific training routines and your needs may change over time. So whether you're a beginner, intermediate, or an advanced bodybuilder, you should take away a lot from this video. So starting with the most basic question, how is it run? In most cases, you've probably heard of it being run 4 days per week, hitting the upper body twice and the lower body twice. This is a very basic setup that's run not just in bodybuilding, but in strength sports, general fitness programs, athletics, and is even used in many bigger, stronger, faster training systems. But in its most basic form, it actually wasn't a bodybuilding training split. As bodybuilding at the competitive level, it requires a lot more attention to individual muscle groups. And if you're trying to develop the entire physique, you might run into some challenges or limitations with a basic upper-lower split. If you're a ranked beginner and you're just looking to build more muscle, running it as is 4 days per week is probably a solid place to start. It might not be optimal, but it'll definitely get the job done. But if you're looking to fully develop your physique to bodybuilding standards, or if you're already a bodybuilding competitor, I might recommend a few other options. But if you're dead set on running this system, there's definitely a few ways to fine tune it to get the most out of this split. One of my favorite ways, first, is to add one more day of training, making it a 5-day split, where you train the upper body 3 times per week and the lower body twice. And while leg days are more demanding than upper body days, this is based on the fact that squats and deadlifts and heavy compound exercises for the lower body, they're much more demanding and draining exercises. But when you train the entire upper body in one session, you have to focus on the chest, the back, the shoulders, the biceps, the triceps. And if you're a competitive bodybuilder, you're probably focusing on the finer details of the upper chest, the traps, the rear delts, the side delts. That's a lot to do in one session. Now compare that to the lower body training session. That's usually broken up into just quads, hamstrings, calves, maybe glutes. That makes for a bit uneven programming for the upper and lower body training sessions. Again, when you're training bodybuilding specific. And it's one of the main reasons that guys move away from this split as they become more advanced. But there's also levels to this system. And there's also a step up from the basic plan before you need to abandon it completely. By adding that third upper body session, we can now spread the focus of the upper body across 3 sessions instead of just 2. For example, let's say on Monday, we train the entire upper body, but it's a chest-focused upper body session. That means we're training every muscle group of the upper body, but all the first movements of that workout are chest specific. This way we can hit that body part first, give it the most attention, and let it get the highest quality of work. After that, the rest of the upper body is trained, but with less volume and less intensity. Now, Wednesday, we can reverse that. We can make it a back-specific upper body day, training the lats and the upper back first in that workout. By only hitting those muscle groups with a low volume on Monday, now we can hammer it with more volume just 2 days later. Next up on Friday would be the third upper body session, and we can make that a shoulder or even an arm-specific upper body workout. Hitting the entire upper body 3 days per week, you get a huge advantage of higher frequency training, but not at the expense of neglecting any one body part. Each major muscle group of the upper body essentially has its own day, but it also still reaps the benefit of higher frequency training. And the same exact thing can be done with the lower body. Let's say on Tuesday, you train legs for the first time that week, but you make it a more quad specific workout. More squats, more leg presses, etc. Then on Thursday or Saturday, you train legs again, but it's a more hamstring specific workout. More deadlifts, more hip hinges, more leg curls. This would be a much more suitable setup for guys beyond the beginner stages of bodybuilding who still want to stick with an upper or lower training system. Performing the upper body split this way opens up the possibility for more bodybuilding specific training. And there are steps and changes to the plan that we can make to adjust it for very advanced bodybuilders, guys who have very specific goals and needs. And you can even run a hybrid approach where you train the upper and lower body the first 2 sessions of the week. Then you focus on hitting each individual body part that needs more attention over the next 3 or 4 workouts of the week. This is something that I personally do in many of my programs. But maybe you don't have 5 days or even want to train 5 days per week. The beauty of the upper-lower split is it's very hard to have overlap in your programming. You can literally alternate back and forth between upper body and lower body training sessions however you see fit. Doing this, you're still getting a full day's rest between each individual body part. Let's say your schedule calls for a rotating training split where you train 2 or 3 days on and then you take a day of rest. It doesn't even matter how sporadic your schedule is. You'll almost never run into overlap issues. Now, if you ran a body part split, you might run into this issue. Maybe your rest days don't line up perfectly. Now your schedule rotates and you run into an issue where you have shoulders the day before chest, or maybe you have arms the day before back. That can definitely pose recovery issues. And overall, it can get messy. Yet, with an upper-lower split, that's pretty much not a concern. However, the upper-lower split, it's not perfect, and it does have its drawbacks as well. One of the main ones is time efficiency. That's generally more of an issue for stronger and more advanced bodybuilders. Similar to how full body training systems can be very long for more advanced guys, full upper body sessions, you can run into the same issue with them. This is one of the number one reasons you see some guys transition from upper and lower to more push-pull legs training splits. This further breaks up the muscle groups by session, but this is something that needs to be addressed on an individual basis. If your training is on point, length of time in the gym, it'll be less of an issue. And if you watched any of my other videos, you know I'm a big proponent of making each workout as time efficient as possible during a dieting phase. This is key for retaining as much muscle mass as possible while in a deficit. We want to keep training performance and intensity as high as possible while we're dieting, which can definitely make the upper-lower split a bit more challenging to program for stronger guys, especially in a deficit. The bigger and stronger you are, by default, the more time you're likely to spend in the gym, due to more warm-up sets needed to reach your heavy weights and more recovery time needed between sets. As someone who squats 4 plates is going to cause more inroads to the recovery than someone that squats 1. That's why I always like to say there's a time and place for many different training programs. But if your goal is to gain more mass, generally, you should be in the gym 3 to 5 days per week, hitting body parts roughly twice per week, focusing on keeping the frequency high, but also allowing for specific attention to each individual muscle group. And there's more than one way to get this done. And if you're looking for a place to start and you want to build muscle using proven old school bodybuilding training methods, I highly recommend you check out my old school mass gain programs in the description below. And as always, if you guys want to see more of the best original bodybuilding content just like this, make sure to hit subscribe.